Hi and welcome back to Once Upon a Tiny Farm. My name's Drew. In today's video I got a special treat for you. I was on a podcast with my friend Josiah, who runs another farm called Brook Farm, and I thought it would be a cool thing to put on our channel to show a different side of me that I don't always show on our channel. Get to know me and our story a little bit more and learn more about my friend Josiah's farm, who is not very far from me and has a much larger farm where he does pastured beef and chickens and pigs. So we could learn a little bit from my small farm and his small farm. But also, my friend Josiah from Brook Farm also just started his own YouTube channel. So I'm going to put a link to his channel below. So if you guys would want to hear more from him, click the link below and subscribe to his channel. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. But for now, let's get into the podcast. I hope you enjoy it.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with a Farmer. Today we have a very unique and special guest with us. We're going to do things a little different today. We have another first-generation farmer. I'd like to welcome to the show Drew Jacobs, owner of Once Upon a Tiny Farm. So, Drew, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Drew. We started a small farm basically right in our backyard. Kind of for a lot of reasons. It started with food, basically. Ever since I was a kid, I've always had migraines. I get really bad migraines. And I started doing some research into food, and I realized when I started eating better food, really, I didn't get them as bad. So I started a small garden in our backyard, and I really enjoyed that, and the kids really enjoyed that. And every year, our garden got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then I found, I don't know if you've ever heard of Curtis Stone.
I have not.
And J.M. Fortier, he's a French-Canadian farmer up in Quebec. He wrote a book called The Market Gardener that basically laid a blueprint for how you could, he was on an acre and a half, which doesn't sound it's not that large.
No, it's not that very
That's
big
bigger
at all.
than my context. We're just on half an acre, but I grow on way less than that. But it showed a blueprint for how you could make a living from a really, really small plot of land. And I thought that was just like a genius thing because I enjoy growing the food, and I wanted to find a way to make money from that. And there's this thing called farming where people have been doing that for a really long time. And I thought, well, I could do that. And I didn't grow up farming at all. Like, everything I learned was through YouTube and from reading books. And like, this is year 3 for me selling at the farmers market in Harrisburg outside the farm show complex. And I've learned a lot, and this is actually the first year I feel like I'm actually like a farmer. Like, I made it onto your podcast with, like, I feel like I made it. Obviously, I'd be the next logical guest after Mr. Clarkson couldn't make it, right? No, so our property is a half an acre, and one part of it was a quarter acre that was just grass, and I would just mow it like every couple days, and I eventually was like, why do I keep mowing the grass? And like, it just seemed like a pointless thing. And I learned from Curtis Stone's book how you could use what's called a silage tarp, basically a thick black tarp. Mm-hmm. I ordered a 40-foot wide by 100-foot tarp. That was going to be my farm plot. So 4,000 square feet, I guess that is. I did that in August of 2019. I laid down that silage tarp, and I let it cook for like 8-9 months. All the grass died. I brought in compost. I laid all my rows. So now I have about 36 rows that are 25 feet long and 2.5 feet wide. So they're all uniform, the same size. And they're very close together. My walkways are like 10 inches, so I have to be careful not to. But I can grow a lot of different things. And even though it's only like 4,000 square feet, I can grow a lot of stuff. And it's actually, this year, it's kind of was hard to keep up with it for the first time, which was good. Like, I've been selling out at our market, and like, I'm really started to realize this year, like, I could really make something from this. Like, I actually need some help. Like, I need people to help me transplant things because I was so tired at the end of the season from doing everything, because it's just me and my kids. My kids are home with me. We homeschool, and that's the way we want it, but it's hard. It's a lot harder. But what my goal is to get, my wife teaches, and I want all of us home. Like, I want to be able to make an income, start a business from the farm, and we also have a YouTube channel called Once Upon a Tiny Farm, and I really enjoy making the videos. I love doing the farm, but it's a lot of work. So yeah, it's like a love of all that stuff, but a little burned out right now. We're almost done.
But that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny to me because I get a lot of comments from other farmers to say, how can you make a living on 100 acres? Like we have.
Yeah.
We have 100 acres.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's impossible. You can't make a living on 100 acres. And then I say, well, yes, you can. It's, it's a small farm. Yeah. And then there's a guy like you, and then I'm standing here saying, my little 100 acres, and then you're like, you're farming on a 4,000 square foot plot. I mean, that's incredible.
You're a lot more diversified than I am, which I think is cool because you have the space to do it.
Well,
though
I think tiring though, like you said.
It's just you, right? Well, you have some people help you. I need to get more people to help me. The way that the small farm like mine, like I would call it a micro farm, like I'm not even a quarter acre that I'm growing on. I'm like, you're more diversified. I'm more specialized. So like at my market, nobody really sells lettuce. But they do, but not the way that I do it. Like I make a nice bagged, clean salad mix that's ready to eat. And I figured when I first started, like if I'm going to do that, I'm going to use the best seeds. So I grow Salanova, is the kind of lettuce that I grow. It's like a proprietary seed. Like it's open pollinated, but like they don't let you like. Apparently, you're not supposed to keep the seeds from it. Although I won't tell anybody that I have let it go to seed. But they're the best. Like you just get.
Monsanto,
No. It's not Monsanto. It's Johnny's seeds. They have the you get just the best loft from, it's a cut and come again lettuce. So I can get 3 or 4 cuts from one seed. So I start them all in trays and transplant everything. And yeah, like the yields you get from like a 25-foot bed by 2.5, like it's amazing. So yeah, it's that plus head lettuce. Head lettuce is something that people don't typically grow over the summer months. But I found a couple of varieties of lettuce that I can grow. They're a summer crisp variety, and I would bring them to the market and nobody else would have lettuce, and they're like, how are you doing that? And it just, I grow them all in the field. I don't have a tunnel, I don't have a greenhouse, although I plan to get one either this year or next year. But it's just the variety. You have to be real specific about the varieties that they could handle some heat. But there's good profit to be made for growing lettuce, and yeah, that's what I decided to do.
That's awesome. I mean, to me, I mean, I'm not a big vegetable guy. Like, I like my meat and my potatoes. Yeah. But you know, there is a huge demand for fresh vegetables, fresh, clean vegetables. Yeah. Or I mean, would you consider yourself an organic grower?
I'm not. Obviously, I'm not certified. I looked into it, but it's very cost prohibitive, especially for someone my size.
Yes.
I have looked into a program. It's called Certified Naturally Grown.
Okay.
I think the way it works is, I actually looked into it. There's a farm, I think, in Orwigsburg that is certified naturally grown. But it's like a national program where basically farmers certify other farmers by the organic USDA standards. But it's basically farms certifying other farms, so it's separate from the government. It's like a private organization, and you pay like a monthly or a yearly membership to be a part of it. And then you could go to market and say, I'm certified naturally grown. Like I've went through the checklist, I was certified by, whatever. I'm looking into that for next year because I think that's pretty cool because it's something you could do outside of, they think it's only USDA, certified organic, and there's other options out there, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well, and as well as I do, we try to keep the government out of what we do as much as we possibly can.
Yes.
And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have not gone the route of being certified organic, because of all the red tape, all the inspections, all the money paid into the government. Yeah. And I mean, that's pretty much all it is. It's a money-making gimmick for the USDA.
Yeah,
that's my opinion
almost
of it.
Like they bought the term like organic. It's like they own it, and you can only use it if you pay them for the honor of having the title. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I like to use the term, people ask like what kind of farm I have. I would say I'm regenerative. I really like that
Yes.
that term, although I think that's kind of getting co-opted as well, like the regenerative, because it's really popular. A lot of farms are calling themselves regenerative, and it's pretty powerful because like when you think about like you guys are kind of like that as well, aren't you?
We try to do as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
The meat industry, I think, is a little bit harder as far as like, we don't hatch our own chicks. It's not cost inhibited for us
Yeah.
to hatch our own chicks.
Yeah.
Or if you've watched shows beforehand, you know the whole story of how we get our steers. We get them from dairy farms. So we're not birthing anything on this farm, and that's kind of an economic decision that we've made, as well as kind of regenerative, as far as the whole backstory with
Yeah.
getting the dairy steers.
Yeah.
But we use our chicken manure to fertilize our steer pastures, which
Right.
are then used to make hay and feed all the animals. And
Yeah.
so in that respect, I look at ourselves as being pretty regenerative, because our sawmill industry, then we use all that sawdust
That's
to
awesome.
bed the chickens and make compost and do all
You
that.
do some
So-
cover cropping too, don't you?
Yes, we do cover crop. Like, we're going to be planting barley this afternoon.
Cool.
The barley will actually go in over top of the pig pastures where they've
Yeah.
mudded it up
Yeah.
over the year.
Yeah.
So the pigs are kind of all isolated now in one section of the pasture. So we'll
Yeah.
plant barley over everything that they have bare ground.
Yeah.
That'll come up, and then in the spring the pigs will go back out, and they love barley. Pigs love barley.
That's cool.
So then they'll eat that down, and it
Yeah.
served as a cover crop for the winter, and then
Yeah.
as a feedstock in the summertime.
Yeah. From what I've heard about pigs, there would be an excellent way to create a new garden plot. The way
Oh, absolutely.
that would have saved it. Maybe I could have borrowed your pigs.
I could
although
rent them to
I
you.
don't think. What year did your farm start? Was it 2020? 2021.
We bought our first herd of goats in 2019,
Okay.
but we didn't start really doing anything. 2020 is when we made our first sale.
See, that's funny because that's about the same time that I started mine too. At least the planning for it.
Yeah, and as in previous shows, COVID's really what pushed us over the edge as far as making the commitment to do this whole thing.
COVID, there's a lot to say about COVID. COVID actually brought me, like, if COVID didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have found you. Because I was so worried that we weren't going to be able to, like, get into the grocery store. Like, when that all happened, like, it was just, like, nothing ever, like, happened like that before. I was worried we weren't going to have access to food. Like, so I really upped my garden that year. Like, there were a lot of, like, COVID gardens. Like, people started watching people like Justin Rhodes on... Are you familiar with him?
I'm not.
He's like one of the biggest...
I live in a shell.
Well,
I live in a shell.
He's like the biggest like homesteading YouTube channel, and I found him like at the perfect time because like I wanted to expand our like personal garden, and it was around the same time that I realized I had the space to make like a market garden. So where was I going with him? I don't know. What was I saying?
Well, how COVID basically transformed.
Yes. So, our neighbor told us about your farm, and like, I was reading all about like regenerative farming, and like, I was saying how we started, how I was trying to find the right diet, like, and eat good food, so I didn't get headaches all the time. Yesterday, I had a terrible migraine, and I like look at my notes, like I actually keep notes of like what I'm eating, like I journal that stuff now. I had Chinese food the night before. That is junk food full of like
MSG.
Yeah, so I'm not perfect. But the pasture raised meat, like just any meat in general is good. Like meat, eggs, potatoes. Like I know that I could grow eggs in my backyard. I could raise potatoes in my backyard. I can't raise meat. I don't have enough space for meat. So
we have chickens. We have chickens though.
That's true.
I help you out with that every once in a while.
And Josiah taught me how to take care of the chickens too. It's a good partnership.
But there's a lot to be said right now about the whole carnivore diet. There's a lot of people switching to the carnivore diet. I mean, my cousin, for example, he told me he eats, he'll eat 8 eggs for breakfast.
Wow.
That's all he eats for breakfast.
Okay.
He'll have a ribeye steak for lunch.
Okay.
And a ribeye steak for dinner.
That's serious.
That's all he eats.
Wow.
7 days a week.
He probably doesn't have any health problems then.
He has zero health problems. He's skinny as a rail, and I mean, super fit.
That's the
guy.
thing. So it seems like the carnivore diet like that, I've never gone to that extreme. I really like potatoes. I don't think I can eat potatoes on a carnivore diet.
I know. I would have a hard time giving up potatoes.
I wouldn't be able to. I could still eat bacon on a carnivore diet. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, what about beer? Is beer included in a carnivore diet?
I don't know. I think what the carnivore diet does, but a lot of the core health issues today, like heart disease, I don't know. It seems to be caused by inflammation. So like a lot of the food that we eat causes inflammation. A lot of the foods French fries, but they're cooked in vegetable oil, and I forget the science, but it does some things to those oils, the way that they're processed. There's a bunch of chemicals involved, and it does something to your cells in your body. And so we stopped using canola oil and stuff like that. So we'll use things like coconut oil or avocado oil. It's supposed to be a little bit cleaner.
Olive oil is supposedly the cleanest oil, vegetable-based oil or fruit-based oil, whatever olives are. I'm not really sure of the science on if they're a fruit or a vegetable.
Yeah.
But they're supposedly to be the cleanest.
Yeah.
Now, there has been a push, which is great for my industry, to go back to cooking with lard and tallow.
Yeah.
Super expensive, though. For the most part.
You guys make some soap out of tallow.
We make soap out of the tallow, but the whole rendering process and cooking it down and getting a clean product that's marketable is, 3 times the cost of somebody going to the grocery store and buying a jug of canola oil, and so it's hard.
That's
to
the problem because it's so much cheaper and it's easier. But from what I've seen, I think McDonald's used to cook their French fries in beef tallow.
Yeah,
it must have been a cost-saving thing to go to the vegetable oil and stuff they use now.
Well, I think it would be great if restaurants started frying stuff in lard again.
I guarantee if they promoted that restaurant would have a lot of customers flocking.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people that are educated in food now more than ever, because the access to information is just so easy. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's a double-edged sword, though.
It's
You
true.
know that.
That's true.
We've had this discussion before where, people's access to information on food, yes, it's great, but also is not that great sometimes because they're getting the wrong information. Right.
You could, depends. So I went through a couple different kinds of diets for a while. I actually was on the vegan diet. I don't like to broadcast. I'm a little embarrassed by that, but I'll admit it.
I won't hold it against you.
I went through them all, and I landed on meat, because I didn't feel healthier on that vegan diet. But the propaganda from if you're looking to justify your decision to be on a vegan diet, it will be, if you search for stuff, you will find it everywhere. Meat is bad, you're going to kill the planet, you're going to do this and that. And they really make you feel like you're a better person if you're on the vegan diet. I didn't feel that great on the vegan diet, and I actually ate more junk food on the vegan diet, because I think if you're a raw vegan, you're just eating raw whole vegetables and stuff, maybe you can make it work. But you're still missing that B12 that's in the meat, and your body needs that.
I would think that you'd be missing the fat,
Yeah. There's so many people, celebrities I've seen that were vegan, and now you'll notice that they're not. And there's something missing there. There's something going on there. A lot of the junk, the what is it called? The burgers that they make, the
Beyond Meat.
Beyond Burger. So if you look at the ingredients, the first one is canola oil, which is something we try to avoid. And there's some other things in there that are made in a lab that if you really dig a little bit deeper, you probably don't want to ingest it.
No.
I forget the ingredient, but it makes it taste like blood almost, something that you're missing in a real burger. But the way they make it,
Well, there's I've looked at the Beyond Burgers.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to. It's basically my competition. And, there's 35 ingredients.
Yeah.
And, beef is beef.
Yeah. Eggs are eggs.
Eggs are eggs. And what most of the stuff what's on the ingredient list, I can't even pronounce.
Right.
How is that healthier?
I don't know.
You know?
I've taught my daughter Lucy when we go grocery shopping. Like we look at ingredients now, and we know like the less ingredients is the better. Like if you're reading like a list of things super long, you don't want to be eating that stuff. So yeah, simpler is better.
And I mean, I'll admit it. I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate, and there's so much junk in chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is good chocolate out there.
Yeah.
And it's hard because a lot of good foods have a lot of tasty foods have a lot of junk in them.
We stopped. We're on the raw milk bandwagon. I don't know if you've ever. Are you?
I'm lactose intolerant, so
you don't do milk.
I don't do milk
I
at all.
didn't know that. Oh.
No.
It kind of tastes like ice cream.
I mean, when I milked cows as a younger individual, I would dip cream off the top of
Okay.
That I could. It was very tasty.
Yeah.
But to like sit down and have a glass of milk.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'll be sick for weeks.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not my thing.
That's common though.
It is. I mean, and humans are the only species that drink milk past adolescence.
Yeah. Right.
So, I don't really see the need for it. I juice up on my my calcium injected orange juice, and that's how I get my calcium.
Yeah. Well, there's something about like how milk is like pasteurized, and I was reading about it. Like it's almost like there's like a thing to try to give raw milk like a bad name, like you're gonna die. Like if you like transport it across like state lines, like don't like you get arrested. From what I've read, I read about the history of raw milk. Like cows were raised on grass, out like on grass where they're supposed to be, and you get the healthiest milk that way. But when I think early 20th century, I guess like the early 1900s, when people started moving into the cities, like New York City, they started moving cows like into I don't know, like a feedlot type thing.
Well, I mean, and into their backyards. I mean, you look at Mrs. O'Leary's cow who started the Chicago fire. Like people had cows in their backyards, in the city. Yeah,
I didn't know about that. I would be one of those people, probably.
Yeah, I mean, they would feed them, grain from the brewery or whatever, but I mean, people were still self-sufficient even though they lived in a major urban area. Yeah, and I feel like I'm trying to get back to that, trying to be more self-sufficient.
Yeah, but what happened was when they started doing that, I guess people started getting sick because of like the bacteria. Something built up because the cows were in an unnatural state when they were milking them, and people got sick. And ever since then, like, raw milk's been, an enemy.
Well, I mean,
it's hard to find.
And going back to the whole brewer's grain, that was a big thing. Turn of the 19th century when cows were coming into the cities, is milk was actually turning alcoholic.
Is that right?
Because they were feeding them so much byproducts from all the breweries that milk was actually had an alcohol content to it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so there was a lot of push. A lot of people were getting sick.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that was in milk that, and if the cooling systems were not that great.
Right.
You didn't have a great way of keeping stuff cool. So the only way to keep things safe was to boil it, pasteurize it, to get all the bacteria out of it. Now, in today's world, with all of the cooling systems we have, all the technology we have to keep a product safe in a raw form, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. But once again, it is a money-making scheme for our government that they charge these dairy farmers an exorbitant amount of money for them to be able to sell raw milk from their farm. Like it's...
Right. I know at our market, that's where I get most of our raw milk from a vendor right across from us, and he was telling me all everything that they have to go through, inspections like multiple times a year, just to be able to sell at the market. I'm glad he's there, but I wouldn't want to go through that. But.
No, it's hard, and even with our meat, we have USDA inspections and stuff like that, and sometimes I really envy you vegetable guys that you're just like, I'm not selling a dangerous product here at all. Just leave me alone.
I'm kind of in the exempt category because I'm selling raw agricultural products. But there were a couple weeks that at our farmers market that there were some inspectors there. They didn't stop at my table, but they made me nervous. I was afraid they were. Like I had lettuce in bags on the table. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have a refrigerator to keep them at. So most of the people that know me at the market, they know to come. They come very early. Like our customers come right when it's fresh. Then it comes out of the cooler, and right when I put it on the table, I make a good amount of sales. But
Great. That's
it is what it is. So.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in today. This was educational for me as well, and I hope our listeners learned something. How's the coffee?
Coffee's good, man.
I say I'm gonna put a shout out again for my Moon Hill Coffee, available only at Sunny Cupboard. So check them out when you get a chance. But hope everybody enjoyed, and we'll catch you again next week. We don't really know who we're gonna have yet. I know we've been pushing for Jeremy Clarkson, but I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. But yeah, shoot us a message if you're interested or have any suggestions. But until next time, we'll see you next week. Thanks, Drew.
Thank you. All right.